Welcome to those who are joining. We'll just give another minute or two. If you haven't had a chance to complete the pre-survey, it's in the chat. Could do that, that would be appreciated.
Should we wait one more minute?
It looks like the participants have slowed down. Oh, there's one more.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe give it another 30 seconds or a minute or so, and you can take it away.
Absolutely. Okay, I think I'm going to start with the introduction, if that's okay. Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome. My name is Alexandra, and I'm the Money Counselor at the Mo Money Financial Literacy Resource Center at the Mohawk College. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this presentation today. So I'm going to start by doing the land acknowledgement. So I acknowledge that Mohawk College is situated on the traditional and unceded territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon, One Spoon agreement, and is currently home to many indigenous peoples from across Toro Island. Now, I want to talk about Mo Money. What is Mo Money and what do we do at Mo Money? So Mo Money is a student money management center focused on two goals. We help students develop critical financial skills, and we also provide students with the resources and training to use those skills. So how do we do that? So first of all, we offer one-on-one money counseling sessions because money is worth talking about. So if you have questions or if you have any concerns about your personal financial situation, you can book an appointment with me as the money counselor. This is going to be a free, confidential, normally 1 hour meeting where we can discuss everything related to your money concerns. We will work in your budget. If you have any debt, we will talk about debt management, creating a saving strategy, improving your credit score, and much more. So please book an appointment if you feel that you want to have like one-on-one help with your finances. We also offer events and workshops like this one. We're constantly planning these type of events to help you build your confidence with money management. If you go into our website, you will see that we have one page named Events and Workshops, and we have the library with all the workshops and webinars we've done in the past, so you can access them whenever you want. Finally, we have some financial resources. Again, on our web page, you can check the financial resources page, and you will find a lot of good resources to help you with your money management, like some calculators, some great tools. And we also develop a great resource. That's the Money Matters module. So you can find that module on my Canvas. That module was designed to introduce the students to a variety of money management ideas and concepts to build your knowledge and give you the confidence in taking control of your finances. So please check that course in my Canvas. How can you connect with us? Please add the next slide, Sam. So we have a social media on Facebook and Instagram. Those are our handles. We also have a YouTube channel where you can find all the videos and workshops and webinars that we have done in the past. As I said, you can join the Money Matters module on my Canvas. Take the course. It's a really good course. You can book an appointment with me. You can join us for an event, or sometimes your professors, they want us to present in their classes, so they can request a workshop. So now, what is important to attend these events? What are the benefits of attending our workshops? So first of all, in addition to learning new skills and information to better understand and manage finances now and in the future, you will also be able to add this session to your co-curricular record. So for the ones that don't know what is the co-curricular record, or CCR, this is a tool for students to track this type of experiences or any program or event not formally related to your program study. So the CCR can be used on and off campus when applying for jobs, awards, and scholarships, and to build your resume. You need to register your attendance, so we will leave the link in the chat for that registration. Then we have prizes. CIFI has been very generous in offering a chance to participating students to be entered into a draw to win one of 450 Tim Hortons gift cards. You just need to complete the pre-survey and the post-survey to be entered into the draws. And also, if you attend several of our Wealthy Wednesday sessions, your name is going to be entered into a draw to win $250 in cash. Finally, if you attend 4 out of 6 of the Wealthy Wednesday sessions, you'll be eligible to earn a financial advocate badge. So that's great if you attend all our workshops, a lot of knowledge and a lot of good things for you coming. Now, I would like to pass it over to Hibo from the Mohawk Student Association, MSA. She has some exciting announcement for you guys.
Thank you so much. First off, I want to say thank you to Mo Money for allowing me to be here and speak about our Clubs and Communities program. So with that being said, I'll kind of give a little bit of an introduction in terms of what our program is, and then start talking about potentially formulating some type of financial literacy club. So for those that might not be super familiar with the MSA, specifically Clubs and Communities, this is a program that I have been working with our team to revamp. When it comes to Clubs and Communities, we're currently at 22, almost 23, once we get one more club in this week that's completing some of our forms. With that being said, some folks might not be completely familiarized with what a club is and what a community is. So I'll give a little bit of a definition, but very much open to any questions. A club is started with a shared interest. So some examples that we have is a chess club, a book club, a badminton club. But we also support communities, and communities come together with their shared identity. So we have an Islamic community, a Hispanic community, etc. Both clubs and communities are housed and supported by the MSA, and they are all led by students for students. So to start a club or community, a student with 5 other friends would come forth with an idea. For example, right now we're supporting a music club that's hoping to get together. And then they would fill out some documents, and then we would train them just to make sure they feel equipped to be able to handle the leadership positions, which isn't demanding in any sort of way, but it's also great to help when it comes to skill building. And then from there, the club will then be officially ratified, which means we then acknowledge the club as an MSA, and that's when they can access a bunch of perks like funding, promotions, social media communications, etc. Now going to switch over a little bit to talk about the specific club that we're hoping to reach out for. So knowing that financial literacy, specifically today's session, is all about newcomers and financial management, we definitely see that there potentially might be a need to start a financial literacy club. And this would be a really awesome opportunity for peer-to-peer support. So some activities that could take place is, I know when I was a student, I was always trying to find the best deal, especially when it came to money saving tips. So for example, talking about groceries, knowing the price of lettuce and eggs these days, that might be a really big topic that students can connect and talk about. How can you really stretch your money management, funding, budget when it comes towards food? So those are some things that the club could do, but also, like I said, clubs are by students for students. So they would come up with the ideas and we would be there to facilitate and support. I'm also going to put a link in the chat now that will lead you to our website. So you'll get 2 pieces of information on that link. One, how to start a club, as well as our FAQ, but you'll also find the clubs and communities directory. So you'll find the list of all 22 clubs with their presidents, as well as a description of each of those clubs. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. If not, I'll also put my email in here as well. Perfect, that just got sent in. So again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out. This is just one of the many opportunities at Mohawk College to get involved. Okay, great. I don't think there's any questions. Again, thank you all for allowing me to be here. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Hivo. So now I'm going to pass it over to Linda from Alumni Association at Mohawk. She also has really good information for all of us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Linda. I'm from the Mohawk Alumni, as mentioned. Connect with alumni on all social media platforms. We host a wide range of events such as trivia nights, career and personal development workshops, webinars, and much more. As a student or graduate of Mohawk College, you are welcome to participate in our events. For students in the audience, keep an eye out for the virtual grad send-off with contests, gifts, events, and more to come. Lots of great support to celebrate your transition once you finish your classes. For the alumni in the audience, if you haven't already, please download the Alumni Perks app for lots of great discounts and contests. Lots of great stuff on our Perks app. Next slide, please. So I'd like to pass it over to Samuel, our alumni facilitator and CP staff, to start the presentation. Enjoy, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to today's main program. My name is Samuel Morrison, and like she said, I just finished Mohawk just about a couple of months ago, just less than 3 months ago. So I should be looking to join the alumni club, and so I would look into that. And so for today's main event, I'm sure you have an idea why you are here, why we joined. We are going to talk about the Newcomers Guide to Canadian Finance. So I want to welcome again. I studied business analysis in Mohawk. Like I said, I just finished and I started work not too long ago. And this program is organized by the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education, and they've partnered with the National Bank of Canada to provide these kind of workshops for people like us, people who are in schools, so we can have an idea about finances during school and after school. And we mentioned before, we did send a pre-survey in the group, and I think that it will be good to fill both out. So we'll send a pre-survey, there's one out, and a post-survey at the end of the event. And if you're able to fill the two, you'll be entered into a draw to win one of $450 Tim Hortons card that would be eventually drawn out in a draw by the end of the semester. So I think there's a good chance to win some free money since we are coming to talk about finance. And so why are we doing this? Just to tell you a little bit about the program, I said the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education, which I would call them CFEE. They joined with the National Bank to offer education about financial literacy. And they named it HELP, Managing Your Money on Campus. And the idea, like I said, is to make sure we have a good understanding of money to support the financial education. So, and because we are all aware we live in a financial complex world. Now, if you're a student, you have access to a bit more money than you used to when you were in high school. Either you are working for your money now, or your parents are giving you more money than you used to. So now you have to spend some money, you have to plan. Most of us now have credit cards or have access to credit cards, if you're not aware. And so the more we get access into these things, the more we become aware that we live in a financially complex world. And so the CFEE, with the collaboration in the National Bank of Canada, they did a survey of about 1,500 students to identify their priorities and interests. And these are some of the survey findings. First of all, we found out that majority of students were stressed when they had to deal with their finance or money. That became one of the biggest issues that was discovered in the survey. Many of them also, the survey made us find out that people prepare and they don't know how to work with a budget. The other thing was many people also have a lot of difficulties when they have to manage their money. Now they have access to money. They don't know how to create a budget, and they don't even know how to manage their finances. And so this event, which is one of many events, is part of the way that they are trying to help people like us in schools to get an idea of money and how we can manage it. So this is not an in-depth event, but this is just to give you an idea of some things you should be aware of when you're handling money, especially if you are new here in Canada, like I was just about last year. I wish that I knew of these events last year, and it would have helped me in so many ways. So today, what are we going to talk about? Today, we are going to talk about three things. We are going to break it down into three different sessions. We are going to talk about life in Canada as one session. The next part, we are going to talk about banking and credit cards. And then we'll talk about income and taxes. So at the end of the event, we are hoping that you would at least learn, you'll be better prepared for the challenges of life being a new person. If you are new, even if you've been here 2 years or you were born and bred here, there may be a few things that you may learn or you may be reminded of if you knew that already. The second objective is to understand the importance of credit scores and how you can build your credit score. And at the end, the last part, we'll talk about a bit about taxes in Canada, how they are and how you can file your taxes. Life in Canada, things to keep in mind. If you are new to Canada in about a year or two, yeah, we consider you new like myself. So welcome again to Canada, to Mohawk. If you're a Mohawk student, welcome. And let's get right into it. This part, we are going to talk about the costs of living in Canada, renting, and then privacy and scams. I'm pretty sure those who've been here for a while have an idea about privacy and scams, and also renting. Let's talk about cost. You know, once you join Mohawk or you are a student, you come into access with money. Either your parents have an account for you for your school. If you're an international student like I was some time back, your family or you have some money in account where you have to manage. So you have to learn how to create a budget. It's very dangerous when you have access to the money in an account and you have no idea how the money goes, what is happening to it. And if you've ever gone online to create a budget, there are different ways and different types of budget. So the first thing about this event is to draw your attention that, hey, it's about time that you need to create a budget. And you ask, what is a budget or how do you go about it? A budget is simply a method where you track your money. So the money that comes in into your account or in assets that you can spend and how the money leaves you. So a budget gives you an idea of that. And for this event, we are going to talk about two main types of budget. And then I'll share what I use personally. So this is my personal choice. So we have something called a zero-based budget, as you can see on your screen, where that's how I actually started when I learned about budgeting. And then I used to write it on paper or I'd have an Excel sheet. Let me pause here. So like I said, the event is divided into 3 sections, right? At the end of the session, or each section, we have time for question and answers. And so also in the chat tab down there, we have a Q&A, which is a question and answers tab. Whilst in the process of this event, if you have any question you'd like us to help answer, you can go to the Q&A tab down there and then type your question in there. And so now as the event is running, if you have any questions, go to the Q&A tab and type your question in there. And at the end of each section, we'll try our best to answer all the questions we'll get. So back to our budget, zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting is based on making sure you have a list of all your anticipated income and then your expenses. So I started by writing it on a piece of paper. Then later I moved it to an Excel file. Every money, when I came in as an international student, every work I did, so my parents would send me money. So money from family, it is this amount. And this. So at the end of every 2 weeks or month, I had an idea of where all my income or feasible money was coming from. And then I was paying rent, you buy food, there are phone bills, all the other things. You have an expense. So the essence of the zero-based budgeting is to account for every single penny, every single dollar that you have. So you are aware which one is going where. And it gives you an idea what is taking so much money from you. When I came, I found out that almost every day I was buying food from outside. In as much as that instance the food was cheap, I realized how expensive it was at the end of the month. But this was only possible because I had written them down in a zero-based budget. And at the end of the month, I would look at it. And so once you see the sum of it, I was shocked that I was spending well over 300 to sometimes 500 just on food. And so I had to go to YouTube to learn how to cook some simple meals for myself because I could not be spending all this money on food. So the second type of budget is the 50, 30, 20. And the idea of this is fairly simple, that you have to try as much as possible to allot 50% of your income into your needs. Now, what are needs, you would ask? Your needs are things that you can't live without. The needs would be your rent, needs would be the food you have to eat. And so these are places that you try to allot the 50% of your money into. And then 30% is wants, things that you would want. So an example would be a need. You need to eat to survive as a human being, right? But you don't need to eat at a fancy place or that shawarma, the place that you like so much, or your favorite burger place. For the need is to eat, but to eat at the place you want to eat is a want, right? So you have to be sure that if you are following the 50, 30, 20 rule, 50% is allotted to your needs, 30% to your wants, and at least 20% is towards the future where you save, because you never know what can happen in the future. And so eventually I personally found out this was working best for me. So I ended up doing this. And now I have a good idea how much I earn and what my expenses are. And what I do now is when my money comes, I save first. So I put my money at least 20% in the savings first, and then I would take care of my needs, and then the remaining I can follow my want, and I still try to save for my want and add up to my savings. There's a good chance if you are new here, yeah, I think there are things that would catch you off guard. Being at a new place, it comes with its ups and downs, and sometimes you are not aware of certain things, certain costs. For example, when I traveled for the first time, everything was so expensive for me, because when they tell me the price of something $2, I would convert it to my local currency back home, and it was so much like, wow, I'm buying bread for maybe $2 in my country that can buy 5 loaves of bread. I was always doing that. So when you're a foreigner, you are not able to gauge what is very expensive and what is cheap. A good way of going about that, as a first point we have, is to at least ask people, right? You have to ask the people around your circle who understand a bit of your culture, or your friends, like, hey, is this price expensive, or is it too much, or is it cheap? And so I think asking people is very good. And I see people doing that because I have people reaching out to me on LinkedIn, all over social media, just asking me about certain things about even the program of finances, because they are also new to the country. The second thing is to stick with generic brands or store brands. When you go to the stores, you realize that there are some brands that are not very fancy. And so it's good to stick with them because the prices may be cheaper. I will tell you a fun fact. So since I came to Canada here, I had the privilege or the opportunity to work in 2 different supermarkets, right? One, during my studies in Mohawk, I was working in Walmart in the store. So when the non-school days, I would be at work, and I learned so much from there. One of the things I learned that the chip, when you're buying chips or snacks or cookies, even though they may have different brands and names, some are from Oreos and the chip may be from Lay's, many of them are actually made in the same factory. It's just the branding that is totally different. And so once I became aware of this while I was working in the Walmart, I didn't care so much about the brand name. And I believe the same may happen for even some of the shirts and clothing we buy. People are so much attached to brand, but if you don't have a lot of money, it's good to stick with the store brand or generic prices. The next thing to do is to create a shopping list and then try to stick to it. Anytime I'm going out to buy stuff, I just enter without having an idea. And I realize I've never entered a supermarket and come out empty-handed. Anytime I go, even if I was going to buy something, I always come out with more than what I thought I would buy. And so it's good to have an idea and to create a shopping list. Okay, the main things I'm going to buy is A, B, C, D. And first, before I buy anything else, I have to buy the things while I enter the store. And then if I'm able to buy that, then maybe I can look elsewhere. I want to mention that if you don't know of the Flip app, this thing here, you should definitely check it out. If you have your note or your PC somewhere, just type it out. At the end of the event, you can check it out. I did a co-op from Mohawk in the Fortinos, if you know the store. So the Fortinos is owned by the Loblaws brand. And that's the first time I encountered this app. So what the app does is it pulls in all the prices. So for example, if you download the app and you want to buy, say, bread, and you just type bread, it will show you the current prices of bread in all the stores. And that helped me a lot. So sometimes when I felt like eating chicken, I just put chicken in there, and then it will show you which store is having a sale on chicken and stuff. I think the Reebok also does the same thing. But I personally worked in Fortinos, and we were part of the team in Fortinos that was feeding the prices into Flip. So I can tell you that is a good thing. If at least you can pick something from this event and you are not aware, you should definitely check Flip out. It will give you an idea of affordable prices. On the issue of cost and saving money, again, first time I landed in Canada at the airport, I saw Fido, have a booth, and then I think Telus also had a booth, and all of them were trying to convince me why I should get a SIM with them. And thank God I didn't get a SIM, because later I realized how expensive they are. And one thing you should be aware is that you may not know it, but the phone prices are fairly expensive here. And so you should try smaller carriers like Public Mobile, Freedom, Lucky, and all those things. And you know, being a foreigner, sometimes when you're new, you see that you can buy only the internet and the chip, and then you get the phone free. So you say that they'll have phone $0 and just pay $50. But many of us don't really read the legal agreement. You'd see that at the end of it, maybe after a year, the price will double or increase or stuff like that. And so it's good to try to do your research and stick within your budget. And more often, before you pick on one thing, we suggest use you have to shop around and have an idea what is available, and you pick one that's best for you. I'll tell you what I did. When I came for the first month, I didn't have a phone, unfortunately. So I was shopping around doing all the research, and I thought the phone prices were expensive for the amount of money I had. And so I later settled on Public Mobile, and that's what I use now. Many people are not even aware of it, but who cares? If you call me, it comes through, right? And you don't see the carrier I'm on. And I picked the most affordable price they had because that's what I could afford. And so with the most affordable price, I only get about 200 megabytes of data a month. And people were shocked because they say they can't live with that amount of data. But at my house, there's Wi-Fi. On Mohawk College, there was Wi-Fi. If I go to a friend's house, there's Wi-Fi. So anytime I went out, I was always using free Wi-Fi as much as I can and not using my data. And that has helped me save a lot. So much that even now that I can afford a bigger, better phone deal, I'm still sticking to my my Public Mobile plan because it helped me so much. It reduced the time I even spent on social media, because now when I'm in the bus, I cannot afford to go on social media because I have only 200 megabytes. But once I'm on campus, I have internet. And so just be careful about incurring certain costs that you think that it's not anything, because they eventually would add up. So that's one thing. The affordable phone plans, you should definitely check them out. And I'm sure by now you know, if you're already here in Canada, that prices do not include taxes. And that's something I'm still not used to it. I see something for $50. Oh, I can buy two. And I get to the cashier, they add taxes and my money is not enough. So just be aware that prices here do not include tax. Taxes are after. I think here in Ontario, if I'm not wrong, it's about 13%. And then also tips. When you go out normally for places to eat, especially restaurants and stuff, tipping is it's become a norm here where they expect you to tip between 10 to 20%. You are not forced to, but it's nice if you can afford it and then you can tip. It's just the way the system here and environment here is. On the issue of renting, I hope everyone here has a place to live. And as you know, housing is a human right. And if you are new to the country, there are a few things that I think it's important to know. And it's a human right that is protected by law here. But unfortunately, it's not easy. When new students came in, some of them always reach out to me. They're always having issues with rent. And again, I always start by how much can you afford? It's always good to create a budget. Like we said, create a budget, you stick to it. So you know that, oh, I can only afford a place that is about $500 a month. I can't do more. Once you know that amount from the budget you create, then you can look down or you can filter your search. Because once you meet someone and says my room is 900, you know you cannot afford it and you move. So it's good to know that. And in the certain instances, sometimes you have to find a roommate if you can't really afford that. But that one, you have to be sure that the house owner or the property owner is aware that you have a roommate, just so that you don't have any issues in the future. What is the difference between a condo and an apartment? This is something I've always asked, because sometimes I see advertisements somewhere, oh, we have condo for rent or apartment. And the difference is very simple, as you can see on your screen. So normally the easiest thing is, whether condo or apartment, they are all in a building where they have different rooms for rents or different apartments. These are very common in larger cities, like when you go to the Toronto area and stuff. So you realize that a condo is a specific unit, whether 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, normally within a larger building. So they would have a large building and they would have different units inside. Sometimes even the real estate people online would get it confused. But basically a condo is, you can call it a condo if you own that unit in the building. So the building will have several units, and when you own one, you can say, hey, I have a condo. The same condo, if it's up for rent, we call it apartment. I don't know why that is the way, but that's how it's called. So it's just good to know, especially when you are looking to rent stuff. So because at one point when one of my friends was changing rent, he was moving from one place, he ended up almost signing a lease for a condo. And then he realized, no, this is too big for me. He wanted to sign a lease, but they were selling the condo, not the apartment. So it's good to know the difference between a condo and an apartment. When you are signing a lease, more or less you are committing yourself to pay rent for a specific amount of time, usually 1 year, right? So what are some of the questions that you have to ask? You have to, it's very important. If you haven't done that already, maybe you should, or at least it's good to have these in your head. You have to ask there, you have to make sure this is clear between you and the landlord or the person renting it to you. Does the house come with everything included, or are utilities not part of the rent? If they are not, that means you have to pay them yourself. You have to be aware, you have to ask, can I redecorate the room? Can I paint it? The apartment I am in, I did ask and they tell me I can paint it. However, when it's time for me to leave, I have to paint it back to the original color it's in. So I decided, nah, I won't put myself through that stress. I left it the color it was. And I use this kind of, I'm thinking of using this kind of wallpaper where when I'm done, I just peel it off and it won't affect the wall. It won't do anything to the wall. So these are things you should be aware of. If you have a car, you have to check, is parking available? Sometimes you have to know the neighborhood. Well, you can't go and ask the landlord, what is the neighborhood like? Because he's definitely not going to tell you the bad stuff because you wouldn't come in. But it's good to look around or Google the neighborhood. And one very important thing, you have to know who is maintaining the property. If you're in the house and the air conditioning breaks down or the heater breaks down, who is fixing it? Is it you, the tenant, or the landlord? So it's good to ask these questions if they are not in the contract. And if you have a building contract, please read it. It will help you when things start to break down or when you start to have issues in the house. So in summary, renting and putting up a property for rent, it comes with responsibility. So this is just a simple table to be aware of who does what or who is responsible for what. So as you can see, the landlord or the landlady or the property owner is in charge of collecting the rent. Definitely, they're not going to miss that. And it's very important that you pay on time. I can bet you that if you do not pay on time, you are going to have trouble. So it's very good to pay your rent on time. And it's the property of the landlord to keep the building safe. And you as a tenant is the property to keep the home clean. And once you agree with the landlord, if he's fixing the air conditioner or the rent, then when things break down, you have to contact the property owner and you have to allow them to enter the property to fix things. Now we are going to have a short poll. If this is a short poll just to ask this question. Do you need a lease agreement if you know the landlord, if the landlord is your friend of a friend of a friend, or you are moving in with a friend? I'll give it about a minute and let's see. What do you think? We just want to know your opinion. What do you think? Do you need a lease if you know the landlord, or oh, that's my auntie's friend, or is my best friend's sister or brother? Okay, so the results are out and it's interesting. well, almost about 94% of us here said that, yes, we always need a lease. And just about a few just said that, yes, only if you don't trust the person. Well, I think that that's good, but the answer is yes, you actually always need to sign a lease, right? Because you never know what the future holds. So when you're signing a contract, you hope that nothing happens, but if something should happen, at least there's some kind of legal document that you can rely on. So even if you know the person you're moving in with, having a lease is very, very important, so that because it outlines also the responsibilities, who does what and who is not in charge of what, so that it will prevent any future confusion. I am aware that there are certain property owners where they would intentionally not make you sign the lease, so that if any time they want, they can kick you out. And that happened to a friend of mine. She always requested for a lease, but she didn't get it, so she had to pick one. And just one Saturday, she came from town and the landlord had changed the locks and said, "I'm sorry, I don't want you in the house anymore." For no reason, the landlord just changed her mind. And it was during the winter season, so you can imagine how uncomfortable that time was for her. She wasn't even allowed in to go and pack her stuff. And when it became a police case, but there was no evidence that she lived there because there was no contract. So the police said there was nothing much they could do about it. So just telling you to make you aware that it's always important to sign a lease and a contract, so that in case something happens in future, it would protect you. And on privacy and scams, oh my, oh my, oh my. If you are here, I believe that you have a SIN number. That's a social insurance number. Every person who is coming to live here for at least about 6 months or so should have a SIN number. And that is something you have to protect and not give it out. Your SIN number and your personal identification number, which is your PIN number. You should not share these things. I will tell you, so especially when you are new, certain people are able to identify that you are new into the system. So you most likely be the target of most scams. And so please, 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 if anyone contacts you for your SIN number, do not give your SIN number out. That's something when I was a student, and even now, I still get calls and stuff. Recently, I got a call that someone pretending to be the CRA, that's the tax agency here in Canada, that I owe the government this amount of money, and if I don't pay them within a specific amount of time, which was by the end of the day, I'm going to be in trouble. And then they wanted me to pay by going to buy some gift cards and then sending them the vouchers online. So these things happen, and rather unfortunately, they do happen, especially if you are new here. You are going to be the target of this. So again, please do not give your SIN and PIN number out. And it's important to know how you'll be contacted from certain agencies. They will most often use the CRA or the tax agencies to scare you. And one thing I want to point out, that if you get a call like that and you are not sure, under no circumstance will the agencies force you that you have to pay within that day. I think that is very, very unlikely to happen. And even if that happens, please end the call. This is my advice, to my personal advice. End the call and then go online and Google their contact number. So if, for example, CRA contacts you, Google their contact number and then find out how, get their number and call them to be sure that it was indeed they are the ones that called. And so the key takeaway for this first part is at least create a budget. Know the essence of a budget, and you have to ask questions before you rent. And also, you have to protect your personal information. Don't give your SIN number out, even when someone calls you or you are in a chat, and please don't give it out. That's how we can identify you and use that to access all your other accounts. And please, if you have any questions, like I said, go to the Q&A and then put your questions there, and we'll try to answer them as much as we go. So we'll take about a minute or two break here just to check the questions we have and see if we can answer them. So Craig, if you're there, you can help me out, see if you have any questions. So, I just opened the chat. Someone is asking, where can we consult the recording after today's session? That's a good question. I think that it will be put online, at least on YouTube, I believe. So you should be aware of it. They might send you a mail after this. If not, just watch out, or you can reach out to the More Money team in Mohawk. You can just ask them, and I'm sure they would show you where the recording is. But I know it's been recorded, and all the previous ones are on YouTube.
Yes, it's Samuel. Good. I did put the link to the YouTube channel in the chat. So if people want to refer back to that, that's where we will be posting the video.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
like you just said, it's on YouTube. And someone asked, is the network signal of the smaller carriers good? I'm thinking of changing phone calls. My current one is bad. That's a good question. So he's asking if the network signal of the smaller carriers are good. So I think what you have to do is, my personal experience, every carrier has their strength hold. So when I wanted to use a smaller carrier, I went online to check if they were good for the area I am in. So I am using public mobile, so I can only speak from my experience. And I checked and I realized that they are good in the Hamilton, Ontario region, especially the southern part of Ontario. I haven't been to the northern part of Ontario yet. I plan to, but most of my time I'm in the southern part. That's from the Toronto area all the way south, anyway, mostly south of Canada. So I believe that you have to check there. So there are all the various ones: Fido, Public, Freedom, Lucky. Check the areas. You can check it online. You can put this question online and it will give you maps, even on their own website, where they are very good and places they are very bad. And so once you know your area or the areas you most likely visit, you see the networks that are good there, and then you pick the one. That's what I did, and it works out for me. I hope that I've been able to answer. And we did also get some questions from the registration form. I don't know, Craig, is it okay if I read them and you help me answer them?
Well, actually, there are a couple in the Q&A.
Okay.
So if you want to go to those and take a look at those.
Yes, thank you for directing me there. So I'm in the Q&A. What happens if you need to move and won't be able to finish your rent or lease contract period? Craig, can you help me?
I think it's gonna there should be something in your contract that says what happens if you aren't able to fulfill the end of your lease. Usually there's going to be penalties you have to pay. So check your lease agreement and see what it says there. There should be some specifics in that agreement. I don't know if anyone else has anything else to add.
Yeah, I will talk from a personal experience. So I think Craig is right. So a friend of mine, it's just moved out or is in a process, and in his contract, he had to put I think the first and then the last month, so a 2-month rent money down. And so when he wanted to move within that time, I think he spoke to the landlord, so he ended up losing only 1 month's rent. The other person I know, he knew ahead of time, so he gave, I think, like Craig said, normally that's why it's good to have a contract or a lease agreement, so that they will tell you that, oh, you have to tell us 3 months before time, or a month before time, or 6 months before time. Yeah.
Yep. Great.
And yeah, I think those are the questions. So we did receive some questions from the online registration, and I would read them out and then would come to those online. So Craig, I read them and then you can help me with them. So one of the questions we receive is, how does it work to build a good credit score with a credit card? Okay, so someone is asking about credit cards. I think that we would come to that in the session. And so when we get there and you still don't understand, then you can ask the questions. But we are going to treat the credit cards later in this session. And someone also asked, how can I survive and keep up with bill payments and also having to cope with schooling and work? This was a question I asked. How can you survive keeping up with bills and school and work? I think almost all international students have this, but unfortunately or fortunately, you have to find a way to survive. It's not easy. From my personal experience, you know that it's for a period of time. If your course is 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, you are just aware it's just a period where you really have to survive. you have to try to work and pay rent and do this. So I think how I was able to survive was to always, I was aware that it's just for a time period of time and it will come to an end. And yeah, someone asked, as an international student, do you get a savings account or just a checking account? I think that you should, Craig, if I'm wrong, then you would help me here. I think that you cannot have only a savings account. You almost always need a checking account, because that's more or less your everyday account. That's the account you use for your transaction every day. Even when you have a job, that's how you're going to be paid into. And so it's good to have a check-ins account, or that's what you need. A savings account is more or less your personal thing. Maybe Craig can add anything if I'm missing something.
Yeah, I think, Samuel, that makes a lot of sense. If you do have some extra money that you do want to put into a savings account in addition to a checking account, because you're not going to really likely get any interest on the checking account, try to find a high interest savings account at your bank or another bank online. But that's possible. Like you would then have two accounts. You'd have the checking for all your day-to-day, like Samuel was mentioning, and then maybe another account to help build up some savings and hopefully get some interest accruing on that.
Thank you, Craig. So moving to the second part, banking and credit. Hopefully we can answer the question on the credit card here. And again, you can put your comments, your thoughts into the chat section. And then if you have any questions you would like us to help with, you can put it in the Q&A tab so that we'll do our best. The essence here is not to give you everything, but it's just to get you thinking or open some issues to you that these are things that you should be aware of, especially if you are new here in Canada. And even if not, you may learn a thing or two, and I think that's good to know. So the second part, we are going to talk about banking and credit, and then we would talk about choosing bank, credit scores, and credit cards. Now, choosing a bank, I believe, or I'm tempted to believe almost everyone here as a student has a bank account. Why do I believe so? Well, if you're international students, you kind of have to pay your fees one way or the other. And in order to survive here, you need a bank account, a checking account, like we were saying, and a savings account. In order to have a bank account, these are the requirements. Obviously, you need to be over the age of 18, the legal age. If not, you need a consent of your guardian. And then some banks require a minimum deposit. And then you need a photo ID. A photo ID could be your driver's license or anything of that sort where it's issued by the state, your passport, and then they can identify you by. One of the biggest issues you'd have is, oh, which bank should I choose? How do I go from here? Which one is good? There's a few things we'd like to point out here. Well, banking, like you are aware now, do not transfer. What that means is, well, if you have a bank in a different country, you are not able to transfer that bank account here. Unfortunately, you have to open a new bank account. And if you are in the process of trying to find a bank, or in future, if you want to change banks, it's good to find a bank that has a CDIC coverage. What is the CDIC? Normally, they would have this logo that you are seeing on your screen on the bank. And it's always good to go online out of that bank's page, because anyone could just do a Photoshop edit and put this picture there. Go online and just Google, does this bank, the name of the bank you want, have CDIC coverage, and you should find the information. So this is the requirement by the state, where it ensures almost if I'm correct, every bank account or every person for up to 100,000 on with a specific bank. So it's good. Every bank that you want to bank with should have the CDIC coverage, and you can easily find that online. However, for my personal experience, I can say that the banking system here in Canada is fairly good. So most of the top 5 banks, Scotia, CIBC, BMO, and stuff, they are good, but you should always check, because they may lose this license at a point to come in the future. So you should always check. And another way that you can check is that many people are not aware, but the government of Canada actually have a lot of tools on their website for so many things, finding jobs, how you can compare banks. And then this is just one of them, where I think if you did register for the event, they might have sent you some information or some document with information with certain links. And one of the links will take you to a place like this where you would be able to test. You'd be able to compare banks and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to see if I would be able to do that with you. So just as an example, Craig, is my screen on? So if you are able to see my screen, can you see my screen with the account comparison too?
Yep,
Yeah,
I
that's
can
working.
see it. Yep.
Good. So this is again from the government of Canada. They have many useful websites. If you have time, I encourage you to just go around and read some of the things. And this is just one of the tools that you can use to compare banks, right? So we will send a link. If you registered, you should have it as part of the links. So you could just a demo how it runs. What province or territory are you in? I could say now we are in Ontario. I pick it. Are you looking for a checking or savings? Let's say I want a checkings account, and the currency, I definitely want a Canadian currency. And then which category do I fall in? Well, I'm a newcomer, I'm a student, and I consider myself a youth. And then when I search for it, it would give me banks that fall into the filter that I picked, right? So there's a bank like Alterna Bank, and it gives you an idea, 0% monthly fees, unlimited combination. And then if you are interested, there's more. You can go down, you see different banks. Then you can click down the view more details, and it gives you more. And then the link would take you to the website of the bank. So I think this is one of the many tools that the government of Canada has that you can use. And then you can also filter for many options, the maximum amount, the minimum amount. So this is one of the ways that I think that you should definitely take advantage of some of the tools that we have in Canada that's provided by the government of Canada. When you have time, go to their website and check things out. One of the things that a lot of people also do have questions on is TFSA or RRSP. If you are not aware, if you are new in Canada, it's one of the most common questions we get, whether to register in the RSP or the TFSA. And the goal of each is that they would help you save, especially save on taxes, but they work in different ways. And so understanding what each one is good for would help you. As you can see, the meaning of TFSA, tax-free savings account, this would just go over some of the things here. So with the TFSA, that is this one, you normally don't need to earn income to contribute. Once you become a resident of Canada, starting from the year you became a resident of Canada, or you were 18 years if you're born and bred here and you were living here, is that you don't need to earn income. So every year there's a specific amount called a contribution limit that as at last year, I believe was 6,000 that you can contribute to. And then whether you contribute to or not, the amount is always, your unused contribution room is carried forward. And the RRSP kind of works similar, but it's different. For the RRSP, you must be working in Canada. So only money that you earn income in Canada should be put there. And you get a tax deduction, and also the unused room can be carried forward. The idea is that even though they are called savings accounts, they are not technically savings for like a normal savings account, but like savings for your future, right? So tax-free savings account and registered retirement. So you can tell that the registered retirement is aimed towards your retirement. If you plan on living in this country, working in this country, and retiring in this country, it's good to look into this account and read more about it. And TFSA is generally good for everyone, especially as students, where it's an account where you can open in almost every bank. You have to find out if the bank account you have has it. And then you put money inside, but be careful because there's a limit per year. And then when you put the money inside, the idea is that you can now invest with that money, whether you are into exchange traded funds or stocks or bonds, whatever. And then the interest you get on that investment is safe from taxes. Albeit there are some limits if you are investing outside of Canada. So that's the idea. The core difference is if you are working and If you're working, you can do both. But if you don't earn income in Canada, you cannot do RRSP. And it's generally not recommended unless you do a bit of further research into it and you understand. It's best always, that's why we have more money in Mohawk. If you are not sure, you can go and see them and they would help you understand more. Again, this session is just to give you an idea of things that are here, like TFSA and RRSP. And they are for you to know, and they are there to help you, so that you can better save money, take things to advantage, and it will help you in the long run. We are going to have a short poll again. We would like to know from you, what do you think? Can an international student open a TFSA or RRSP? What do you think? We give it a couple of seconds. What do you think? Do you think any person can open a TFSA or RRSP? If you have any questions, also don't forget the Q&A. You can always drop it in there. Any comments, you can drop it in the chat. Anything you want us to help you with, you can definitely drop it there, and we'll do our best to help you. How far are we doing with the polls? So the results are in. Almost every, well, some people said no. That's a good point, that you cannot open a TFSA. And others, or the majority, said yes, if you are 18 or older. Well, let's find out. So can an international student open a TFSA or RSP? Yes, you can. I think what you need is, like we said, in almost everything, you need to be 18 years or older. You need a SIN number. That's your presence here. And then with this tool, you are eligible to open a TFSA or RRSP. However, don't forget the TFSA, you can put any money inside. With the RRSP, it needs to be earned income. And if you need to understand more, you can ask questions definitely. If you want some clarification, you can go to the more money department. They will be more than glad to assist you with it. So that's for TFSA and RRSP. Now the credit score. Hopefully we can answer the question that we got. You know, in Canada, a credit score is used to determine what kind of borrower you are. And your credit score would range from 300, that's one of the worst, and as per the colors, I hope that you understand, to excellent, which would be 900. And the higher your number, the better your chances of being approved of credit. And when you first move here, normally you do not have any credit score here. Even if you had a perfect credit score in your country, unfortunately, you are not able to transfer that here. So that really hurt me a lot when I realized credit score is not transferable. So once you are new here and you plan on living here for a long period of time, you should definitely think of building your credit score. Because without a credit score, it will be very difficult or virtually almost impossible to do any major thing like rent. Because guess what? When you're going to rent certain apartment, they need to check your credit score, what kind of borrower you are. That's what your credit score is. Is this person known to be good on paying their rent? Is this also when you in future plan to buy a car, lease a car, buy a home, any major purchases, they are going to check your credit score. So it's good to definitely have a credit presence. How do you build credit? Well, first and foremost, you have to have access to credit. And how do you have access to credit? You have access to credit through credit cards. Once you have credit, you have to use it responsibly. So you definitely need credit, and you can get it through credit cards. So you get access to the card, and with that, you can buy stuff and then pay. And then once you're doing it, the history, because the card, it's data, it's been recorded. And with that, the systems or the financial system can have a good idea what kind of borrower you are. But you have to be careful to use your card responsibly, and always, always, always pay your balance, always, because that's how you can improve your credit score. And so again, how do you build credit? You have to get access to credit. Sometimes with a bank that you are, after like a year or two, they might reach out to you like, hey, this is a credit card for you. Or sometimes when you go to places like Walmart, where I used to work, I know that sometimes when I check in, they just give you, hey, do you want a credit card? Or even in Canadian Tire. So most big institutions and financial institutions give them out. However, you have to be careful. Don't just rush into getting many credit cards, but you need some credit presence. Use them responsibly. Always pay your balance. It's better not to carry them forward. And the idea is that you have to use about 30% of your, or you shouldn't go above 30% of your available credit at a time. That's what is called credit utilization, because normally when they're checking your credit history, that's one of the things they check. How often do you hit your credit marks? And there's a saying that it's better to stay within the 30% of that. And while it may not be possible to always stay within that, sometimes you go over and above, that's normal, but you always have to try that averagely you are there, and you always have to pay within time. Another trick is also don't apply for unnecessary credit cards when you don't need them. One is good to start, and always, because anytime you apply, they do something called a hard check. They are going to check your credit score, and when they do a hard check as against a soft check, it would actually reduce your credit score. And I don't think that you would want that. So you wouldn't be able to build a good credit score overnight. That's not possible. Sometimes it would even take you about a year before you get a credit card. But it's good habits, and with good habits and consistency, you'd be able to build your credit gradually. So it doesn't matter where you are now, but time by time, you'd be able to build your credit over time. And so it's good to get access to credit and use it responsibly. So that's the first step. Another thing that people, when I came, I asked about credit cards, and then many people were telling me different things. But now that we understand the importance of a good credit score and how important it is for us to use our credit score, how do we get started? Well, like I said, many of the time, it just means that you have to get a credit card. Unfortunately, that's one of the few ways that you can actually start, because then you build a history. Many people think that, oh, I don't want to owe, so I won't get a credit card at all. Unfortunately, not having a credit card, it doesn't mean that you have good credit. It just means that we don't know the kind of borrower you are. So they need to know, if you ever in future plan on accessing credit or loan from a bank, they need to know what kind of borrower are you. And it's good to have at least a credit card. That's how we would know. And when you buy something, you pay it off. You buy something, you pay it off. Having no credit at all is not equal to good credit. You're as good as zero. They don't know you. Another thing is, don't see credit cards as free money or extra money. Oh, I have 1,000 extra, so I can spend it. Because you always have to pay the balance at the end of the month. And that's very, very important. How do you choose a good credit card? People may ask. First of all, you need to know the type of credit cards. There are different types of credit cards. There's a standard one, there's a student credit cards, there's a secured credit card. The best one is always to talk to maybe your bank you are in, or any bank for that matter. They will tell you the kind of credit cards they have, and then the one that best fits your current lifestyle. Most or certain credit cards come with incentives. By incentives, some of them have travel points. Others would have a movie ticket. Like you get access, I think with Scotiabank, you get something called a Scene Plus that it can give you access to the certain movie theaters. And so certain credit cards have certain incentives. Others have a cashback. But you have to be careful. Don't only be lured by the incentive. More importantly, you have to be wary of the fees. There are things that are called annual fees. Certain credit cards have annual fees. And if you are getting a credit card with an annual fee, please make sure that at least the incentive makes sense with the annual fee. So I know a friend who travels a lot. And so in order to get certain travel incentives and points, he got a credit card that would, if for any time he travels, he get a huge discount, but it comes with an annual fee of just about $20 a year. I think it was $30 a year. And so with that, for her, it made sense because her travel point she was getting was worth more than the fees. So again, when you're choosing a credit card, be aware of the credit cards that is out there. Is it a secured credit card? Is it student? Is it standard? Be aware of the incentives and check the fees. I personally, when I started with cards that have zero fees, zero annual fees, because I didn't have a lot of money. And so that's something I decided to go with. And so that's more or less what we would want to let you be aware of the banking and credit systems. First of all, we spoke about finding the right bank account for you. There are many ways you can find out. Now there are a lot of YouTube videos. You can just Google what is the best bank account for an international student, and I'm sure you'd find something. Also, I showed you the tools from the Government of Canada website. So don't just jump into any bank, because some banks also have monthly fees, but find one that's best for you. The same thing is to be aware of credit score. Maybe you may not be qualified for a credit card yet, but it's good to have the knowledge that a credit score shows the kind of borrower you are, and the earlier you start to building one, the better it would be for you in future. Don't rush to getting one also so you get credit cards that have costs. But the idea is that you know that it shows your credit history. And so these are some of the main takeaways that we hope you can get from this one. Now, if you have any questions about banking and credit card, now is the time to ask before we move to the last part or the ending part. And so please let's know some of the questions you have. If you would like us to clarify more, please ask or in the Q&A in the chat, and we'll look into it. I would go to the Q&A and see what we have for questions right now. So someone said it seems like TFSA is good because it's tax-free. But is there any catch? What is the main benefit? And why some people should go for RRSP? So basically, Greg or anyone, can you help with that? So it seems like TFSA it's good because it's tax-free. But is there any catch? And what's the main benefit why someone would go for RRSP? If any of the panel would like to help with that before I jump in.
Sure, I'll start off, Samuel, then you can add more. Yeah, the TFSA is definitely a great way to go, especially when you're in a lower income tax bracket. Just getting started, if you, as Samuel mentioned, you need income for the RRSP, but even if you don't have much or any income, you can contribute up to the maximum for the TFSA. The only potential catch, just to be aware of, is depending on what country you come from, there may not be a reciprocal agreement with Canada, so you can get the full benefits of a TFSA. For example, if you were coming from the US and you're still a US citizen, you still need to file taxes in the US, and then the TFSA, you wouldn't get the benefits of the TFSA because you have to show that income in the US. But other than that, so check the country you're from just to make sure that there aren't any sort of things like that. But other than that, TFSA is a great way to go. And really think of the RRSP more for as you're later in your, as you're getting going in your career, and maybe you're in that second tax bracket making more than roughly $50,000 a year, then the RRSP starts to make more sense because it's more of a deferral of taxes versus a permanent tax savings like the TFSA. So I'll stop there, and Samuel, please add more.
Okay. Yes, just little bit. I think both are good. Both have their, like Greg said, both have their advantages. But one of the main reasons people would go for the RRSP is mainly because they are earning so much. That's why we normally don't focus on it now when many of us are at the starting point of our careers here. And so what it does is it falls into a category called a deferred tax bracket, where it's not that the money you are putting, the RRSP, when you put money inside, it's normally best when you are going to use it for your retirement. So that's why it's called a registered retirement. So you are deferring your taxes into your retirement age. So the year that you put money inside, you most likely may not have access to that money only I think until for some very unique reasons. Either you are a first-time home buyer, or you are starting a school here in Canada and you need money. But other than that, money in your RRSP, it's not normally advisable to take it out unless you have unique reasons. So when you put it there, you defer your taxes, and then hopefully when you're on pension, your tax bracket is down, and so you have a good amount of money there. You can use it for investment whilst it's there. But when you have money in the RRSP and you take it out, that year is added to your income and it's still going to be taxed. And so that's why normally when you are earning more and you know you're going to stay here for pension, it's good to take advantage of both TFSA and RRSP. Like the TFSA is basically good for everyone. That one you don't need to prove that you earn the money here in Canada. Like some of us, when we were coming into Canada, we came with some money. So some of my free money, I put it in a TFSA. So someone is asking, is CPP and RPP different? And because it's currently working and you saw that they've deducted that from their pay stub. I think we would address that in the next section. And then if we don't, you can kindly draw attention back to it and would come to that. Let's see. Yeah, so basically we've talking about the banking and the credit card system, credit scores. I hope that you've learned a lot so far, or at least it's giving you some ideas to be aware of. Again, this is not an in-depth thing, but just to get you on the path of thinking about these things, because it's good to know and it's good to have these seeds implanted in us so that we can find more about it in the future. So with the question on the CPP, we'll address it in the next chapter, because I believe we'll talk about it a bit there. Thank you. So now we're going to talk about income and taxes. And so there was a question that was asking about pay stubs and taxes, the tax system and why we file tax. So I believe that we would just jump into that and address that here. So the pay stubs, I think the person who was asking us that he said he's seen a deduction in his pay stub called a CPP. So the average pay stub in Canada may look like something like this. Your name is here, you have your employment ID somewhere here. And then the good thing is it's grouped like almost all pay stubs, right? So you have the period ending, that's the period where you are to the period that you are being paid and the pay date. And then we come here. So you realize that most often the income part of the money you get would normally be on your left side, and the deductions made would normally fall under your right side in this order. And more often than not, they have to break down the kind of income. So if you work your regular hours, it would be something like this. Your regular hour, how much you're being paid per the hour, and the number of hours. So this would technically be this multiplied by this, right? So it's easy breakdown. And so in the case of this example, there is an overtime for this pay stub we are using as an example. And you can see, so 25 and then multiplied by this. So this part is the income breakdown. And this is the part that many of us don't understand. The first time I signed a contract, I was looking forward to the money. And when it came, we had so many deductions, I was shocked. Unfortunately, there are deductions that are part of the pay slab, and unfortunately many of them are fixed. I think those that are fixed are normally these three: CPP, EI, and income tax. And then there may be many other ones that you may be signed on to, or your employer is signed on, and then you are a part of. So the CPP is a Canadian pension plan. And this is a public pension available to anyone in Canada over the age of 60 who has contributed to the plan. So once you are working here, it's an automatic deduction. It's like paying into your the pension plan in almost every country, I believe, has that. So that's what the CPP stands for. And normally, I think it's about 5.7% of your income when you're earning between 3,500 to 61,400, not 100% sure on that, but that's it. So the CPP is the pension plan, the Canadian pension plan. The EI is your employment insurance. For those of us who are not aware of it, it's good to know, right? And this is a public income program for people who've previously worked before. And then so you are paying this so that in future, when you work for a specific number of time periods, say for example 1 year, and you lose your job, the money that you may be getting from government to help you live is normally taken from the EI that you've been paying. So that's why these deductions are there. The pension plan, the EI, there's income tax, which you all know the government has to take their income taxes in order to survive, to give us the infrastructure we see here, the roads, the electricity, the hospital. And these are just examples of other deductions that we might have. For example, this person is part of a union, he pays union dues, there's life insurance, and so on. So the idea is that this is how the average pay stub is. Income is here, deductions are here, and then you have your YTD, which is your year to date, your gross income, and year to date till now, how much deductions they've made, and the net, how much you actually got. So you can, these just gives you a good idea of how to break down the pay slip. So I hope that from now, at least you have an idea how to break down your pay stub if you were not already familiar with that. Taxes. You know, so and Canada is based on a self-assessment principle where individuals must complete and file taxes themselves at the end of the year. So from the country where I was from, the government took the taxes, especially in most African countries and most of the European countries, the taxes are deducted already. And so we don't have to file taxes. However, you should be aware that here is based on a self-assessment principle where you have to complete your tax return at the end of the year. And like I said, the CRA collect the taxes for the government. CRA is the tax revenue authority in Canada. And they use that for government operations. Normally, it's around between March to April 30th. That's when we all start to file our taxes here for both employed and self-employed. And so the advice I would give you here is, if you are working here in Canada, please keep all your pay slips. And at the end of the year, your employer would give you, not at the end of the year, from now to around before April 30th, they would give you something called a T4. If not, you should ask for them, but normally they would send it out because you need that to file your taxes, whether you're a student or whatnot. So long as you are working, it's good to file your taxes for yourself and for the future. And so, yes, be aware of these kind of tax systems and the date. So even if you're a student and you are working, you have to file your taxes and you need to have these things. So we have taxable income. What is taxable income? And then what is the other type? So let's talk about taxable income. So taxable income, so deductions from your salary. If you remember, we're talking about RRSP. So when you contribute to your RRSP or you are moving to a new place, so from the original place to the new place, it's over about 40 kilometers. It's better to keep the receipt because you can use that to file for deductions from your taxable income. What that means is, for example, if I'm earning 50,000 a year, and that year I contributed 10,000 to my RRSP. At the end of the year, when I'm paying taxes, they won't tax my 50,000, but they will tax my 50,000 minus the contribution I made to the RRSP. So that would be 50,000 minus 10,000. So they would only tax my taxable income, then becomes 40,000. And so it's good to know these things. And then we have credit against your taxes, and everyone has these. These are the amount of tax credit that once you're about to pay tax, you may get credits. They will reduce the percentage of tax you have to pay. An example will be, for example, if you have certain medical expenses, it's good to keep the receipts, and it's good to also, again, go and see the More Money department to talk more about it, and also a financial advisor, and it can help you when you show them all your receipts that these ones would be good to cut down the tax percentage and stuff. Many people don't know, but donations you give to charity is also good, and it's good to keep the receipt. So example, many people who go to church or a mosque or any kind of charity that they pay tithes or they make certain contributions, it's good to ask for the receipt because you can use that to file taxes. So it's always good to have certain receipts. If you are not sure, just keep the receipt and then go and show it to an expert, a certified expert, and they will tell you which one you can throw away, which one you can keep. So at least I hope that now you know that you can get some tax credit from charitable donations. And so we just want to play a short video here for you, and just to kind of summarize what we've been talking about, tax deductions and tax credit for all of us all. And so just give me a moment while I prepare for that video.
Filing taxes is really nobody's idea of a good time, but one small joy you can get from it is in watching your tax bill go down as you add in deductions and credits. But what exactly is the difference between a tax deduction and a tax credit? Aren't they kind of just interchangeable? While both can be good for your final tax return, they are very different. First up, let's look at tax credits. A tax credit reduces your overall tax liability. So if you have a $1,000 tax credit, that means you no longer owe $1,000 on your taxes. A tax deduction reduces how much of your income gets taxed. Let's say you have a $1,000 tax deduction. It is applied to your top income tax bracket. So if you made $55,000 last year, your top tax bracket is 22%. That deduction means that $1,000 of your income won't be taxed. So you save that 22%, which would equal $220. This all makes tax credits sound pretty great, right? Most of the time, yes, but there are some catches. Many tax credits aren't refundable. What that means is, let's take this $1,000 tax credit again. But let's say you only owe the IRS $600. You don't get that extra $400.
So yeah, this is just a short video that would help us to, again, go over what we've learned for what tax deductions and tax credits are. So I hope that this would also help you, it has helped you to really understand what tax deductions and tax credits are. So deductions are taken from your money before the tax is applied, and tax credit is applied to the total amount that you'll be paying taxes. And so there's a poll that would like to ask you, what do you think? Can you claim tuition fees on your taxes? Your tuition cost, do you think you can use it for tuition fees on your taxes? Can you claim tuition fees on your taxes? What do you think? Give it a couple of seconds and then we'll see the poll results. Yes, so the answers are, well, many people said yes as a deduction and also as a refundable tax, and a few said no as a non-refundable. It's good. So I guess that many of us do have the idea, but the answer is yes, as a non-refundable tax credit. So you can claim, and you should claim, your tuition or your taxes as a non-refundable tax credit. And so you can claim the taxes you pay on your tuition, like I said, as a non-refundable tax credit if you file your taxes and provide a T2202 form. We would explain that later. That's normally issued by the school. And so that's a non-refundable credit. And what that means is that it would lower your taxes you owe potentially to zero sometimes, but it would not generate a tax return. Not that they would give you the money back, but it would reduce the amount of tax percentage that you have to pay. So, and you don't even have to use all the tax credit in 1 year. It's one of the few things that you can apply forward indefinitely. So that's good to know. So do you have to complete a tax return? In order that for you to be able to file for taxes, we said earlier, you have to have at least worked here. You have to earn some Canadian income, right? What that means is you have to have at least worked here in one way, shape, or form, and you received a pay stub or a pay slip. And so with that, you should definitely get your T4 and file for your taxes. And it's also good when you have residential ties to Canada. That's something to consider. And maybe you can even get some benefits or credit. So what is a residential tie? Normally it's if you can prove that you've lived here for at least normally up to 183 days, which is about 6 months. And so you are either you own a property that you live in, or you even pay rent. And sometimes you have a Canadian bank account. That kind of proves that you have residential ties here. And so technically, almost every student who is schooling in Canada, like you move to Canada and you are working, you should be able to complete a tax return and file for your taxes. In order to file for it, this is what you need. Like just I was saying, you need to determine your residency status, and always keep your address up to date with everyone, with your current employer, with the CRA. You need your SIN number from the CRA, and you need, these are the forms you may need, right? So the T2202 or T2202 is your tuition fees paid for the tax year. You can request for it from your school around this time. Your T4 is your employment income deductions. And then T4A, if you had certain scholarships and bursaries, and T5, if you are investing in stocks and bonds, yes, with your interest, your earned interest, you do need to file taxes on that, normally with a form called T5. And certain receipts, like we said, when you are moving, you move from a place of 40 kilometers or more, you need to file taxes. And so this would bring to conclusion this part. And then the key takeaway is, at least now you have a bit of understanding on your pay stub, and you know that where the income part is, where the deductions are, what CPP is, your Canadian pension plan. There's RPP, that's your registered pension plan, where with that one, your employer would register with CRA that they also want to help you save money for your pension, when in case you go to pension. And so all these are part of the deductions, and whether or not you need to file taxes. And if you live in Canada, you have residency in Canada, and you have reg, you should file your taxes. And that's the key takeaways from here. So in summary, living in Canada, in this event, we're talking about life in Canada in general, banking and credit, and income taxes. And in the first part, we spoke about creating a budget, the zero budget, the 50, 30, 20 kind of budget that you need. And the barest minimum, you should have an idea of your expenses and your income, and always make sure that you live within, preferably below how much you earn, so that you can save for the future. And always ask questions before you rent, and please protect your SIN number and your personal information. For the second part, for banking and credit, we did talk about finding the right bank for you and your credit score and how to build one. Very key to note that not having a credit card at all doesn't mean you have good credit. It just means you are unknown. We don't know the kind of borrower you are in the system. And we also spoke about choosing a credit card. Last part, we just spoke about the credit cards, and then understanding your pay stub and the things to know, have a good idea whether you need to file a tax return or not, and the checklist. That was when we spoke about the T5, T4, T4A, and then T2202. So these are things to be aware of. And so these were the learning objectives for this main event. We hope that we've been able to achieve that. Again, if you'd like us to help with anything, any questions, anything, please put that in the comment section or the Q&A section. And if you want to have any comments, put it down there. And what are the next steps, you may ask? So again, we hope that with this, at least if you don't have a budget already, it would give you an idea how to create one. To go online, get resources, go and talk to More Money, and get an idea how to create a budget. And also, you are aware of taxes. Many students don't know that once they work, they have to pay taxes. You do have to pay. If you don't pay now, it will still come back in the future to haunt you. So it's good to know that. And then the programs and tools, especially from the government, as I showed you, and also for More Money, you can always go to them. They'll be more than happy to help you, give you access to certain platforms to learn more, and also to compare resources. So with that, we come to the ending of today's program. We do hope that you have learned something, and with any Q&A, you can keep them coming, and let's see. So Greg, I would hand over to you for now for the Q&A. I think I'm not able to see the chat, so can help me with that.
Samuel, do you see the Q&A or I'm not sure if there's any questions in the chat. There's too much going on there. So let's just focus on the Q&A.
Okay, I would focus on the, yes, now I wasn't able to see it there. Many people are asking if this would be shared. Yes, like we said, this would be shared on YouTube, and also if you are not sure, you can always contact More Money, but we do share, we did put it online because the aim is to help us. Someone asked, can a newcomer roughly guess the total percentage of acts that would be charged per week? Greg, if you can take it, can a newcomer roughly guess the total percentage of tax that will be charged per week?
Yeah, that's going to be pretty much impossible to estimate. What you need to think about is what your income is and the different income tax brackets. So the first income, like, depending on how much you're making, if you're making more than the basic personal amount, which is round number, roughly 15,000 federal, 11 or 12,000 provincial. If you're for anything you make above that, the next tax bracket is around 20% for federal and provincial. And then you also need to include the CPP, like Samuel mentioned, call it roughly 6%. EI 1.5%, maybe some union dues, things like that. So it's pretty much impossible just to do a estimate right now off the top, because it's so dependent on what your income is. If and this is in the resource sheet. If you take a look at taxtips.ca, it's a good website that helps you understand how the tax system works more in Canada. So that might give you a better idea. But then don't forget you'll also be paying CPP, EI, and some of the other pieces that Samuel showed you on the pay stub slide.
Yeah, just to add a bit to that, I did do a bit of research before this event, and a good way to know is that, like, in Canada, they have a tax bracket system, right? When you fall in the range. So I think if you fall, I don't remember the exact number, but if you earn income around 14,000 or below, it's good to file taxes, but then the government would not take anything from you because you are in a very low tax income. So filing taxes doesn't always mean that the government will take money from you. Sometimes they even give money back because they may realize, oh, you earn below a certain income and we took too much from you. So it's actually good to file your taxes. However, it's just good to know your tax bracket. So example, if you're earning between 46,000 to up to 46,000, you have a 5% tax bracket. And then if you are between 46,000 to 92,000 plus, you have a 9.15%. So it's in a tax bracket. So it will be very difficult to estimate. It's mainly on how much you earned within a year. They don't really matter about how much you earn in a week or a month, but it's more like how you earned in a year.
Yeah, and Samuel, just to add to the numbers you were just mentioning, I think those were the Ontario.
Yes.
So you have to then, for the first tax bracket, you have to add 15% for federal. And you have to add 20% for federal in the second tax bracket. So again, roughly 15 plus 5% up to roughly 50,000. And then closer to 30% above that, adding those numbers together that Samuel mentioned, plus the federal.
Yes, and again, people are always asking if so this meeting will be shared online on YouTube, and you can always contact More Money. You have this, it's being recorded. So if you came late or missed the portion, don't worry, everything would be recorded. Someone is asking, will there be a tax clinic at More Money College this semester? I think I would leave it for the More Money department to answer that.
We're in the process of trying to get one organized. The MSA actually is also working on a rebated tax partnership with a tax preparation clinic. So stay tuned. If we do manage to do a tax clinic, we will post it on our webpage. And also stay in touch with MSA because they will be offering some rebates as well.
So any more questions that you'd like us to help with? And I believe that we've been able to address at least most of the concerns you had. Just going through one of the questions. So person was asking if you have a credit limit of, so he has a credit card and he only has $1,000 on it. Does it mean you only have to spend $300? That is a 30%. And even if he gets more credit card, is it only 30%? Does it? Yeah, Craig, if you can take it from there.
Yeah. So the 30% is the kind of guideline as far as how much of the overall available credit that you do utilize on a credit card. So yeah, if you had $1,000 credit limit, try not to go over $300 because that starts to hurt your credit score. The credit, those who have extended credit start to get nervous that you're utilizing too much of it and maybe you can't pay it off. If you are able to qualify for another card at $1,000, yes, you then can be utilizing 30% of that, but keep in mind how much overall credit has been extended to you and just what that does vis-a-vis your income. But if somebody's willing to either increase your credit card limit on a current card or give you another credit card, then they've gone through the process to check your credit, but try to keep it under that 30% of your overall credit capacity that has been given to you. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
I think you answered it well. So yes, that's about all. So yeah, please, you can keep the questions coming. We are here for you. That's why we made this time, and you are also here. So take advantage of it. Ask the questions, anything you'd like to know on the issue of rent. And so just for about a minute or two, and if not, we'll move on to that.
So there's another question in the Q&A. I'll try to take this one again, Samuel, since it's kind of an extension. Can you elaborate the effect of a credit score if I go above 30% of credit limit? Unfortunately, not specifically. It's not as if there's a published formula out there for how exactly all these calculations work. You may want to just, keep an eye on your credit score. If you're able to get like a free credit score from maybe a banking account you have, but do your best to kind of keep it under that level. I can't give you a kind of a formula. If you go to 50%, it's going to take 20 points off. It's not quite that black and white, unfortunately, but do your best to keep it under the 30% if you can.
Just to add a bit of experience to that, I think that, so the idea is 30% limit, but it doesn't mean you should never go above. More often than not, you would go above that 40-50%. But I think try to picture it this way, right? I have lent you $1,000, or I have a bank account set for you that you can use up to $1,000. Anytime you use it, I see it. And every time you are using up to 900. So it creates the impression that, oh, you really need money every time. And so I may have the notion that there's a higher probability for you to go overboard, as against someone who is always using around 400 or 40% or 50%. There's more room. So you just kind of give them an idea of how much you are likely to go overboard. So it's not a fix that never go above. One way I started with a credit card where I had only $1,000 limit on it. And so it was very impossible for me not to go above the 30%. What I did was, because I was getting paid every 2 weeks, when the money come, where every 2 weeks I reduce the amount. So when I get paid and I clear what's there, because keep in mind, credit cards are evaluated at the end of the month. They have a pay period, whether the 1st, whether the 15th, depending on your credit card. But it's normally within a 30-day period. So because I was being paid on a 15-day period or every 2 weeks, when the money comes, I reduce it. So that helped me when I had $1,000 credit card. I hope that helps.
Great answer. Thanks, Samuel.
It's another one that says, can you go till your maximum credit Sorry. So I think he's trying to ask if you can go.
I think they were just somewhat saying what you just said, Samuel.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not as if the credit card companies are gonna cut you off if you go to $301. It's just the impact on your credit score, and do your best to get the balances back down, and try not to always be going to $900 out of $1,000 credit limit. So I think they were just trying to reinforce your answer, Samuel.
Thank you. If we do not have any more questions, or Craig, should we give it one minute or we can move on?
Looks like we've covered quite a bit.
Yeah.
Other.
Yeah, so I see people adding tips in the comment section that would help you improve your credit score. That's good. The idea is always pay your balance and try not to max it out always. Once in a while, it's live, some things happen, but always clear it out. And just remember, like you said, there we did post a pre-survey at the beginning. And now at the end, we've just posted a post survey at the end. It's good to fill it out because I think then it gives you a chance to win one out of 4 $50 Tim Hortons card. So it's good. We are talking about money. Welcome to finances. This is free money. So you don't have anything to lose. There's a good chance to get some free money for you. So take it up. And I think with that, I would like to move on to the next part for the Mohawk team.
Yeah, so we were talking about a lot about taxes and a lot of questions about taxes. So we still have time to file our taxes. This year we have until May the 1st. So don't worry about that. Hopefully we can offer the tax clinic on the campus. So keep an eye on our social media, but we are going to have another really good workshop as part of the Wealth in Wednesdays sessions. And this time the name of the session is going to be Understanding Personal Income Taxes. So a lot of your questions are going to be resolved in that workshop that is going to be just about taxes. So please register. This webinar is happening in March 8th at the same time, 12:30. So Deb is putting the link to register in the chat. So please register. It's going to be a great one. A lot of learning about taxes, and even after the workshop, you will have almost a couple of months to file your taxes. So we still have time, don't worry. I think that was everything for today. Samuel, thank you very much. You did a great job. Thank you, Craig, for all your support. And thank you guys for attending today. We hope to see you all in our next session on March 8th. And if you have any questions, as Samuel said a couple of times, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, visit our website, book an appointment with me, attend the events, complete the Money Matters module. We have a lot of resources for you, so please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay,
Thanks a lot,
have a good
Samuel.
day.
Great job.
Take care.
I know.
Bye-bye.